Once upon a time, long ago, there was a boy who lived on the banks of the Hudson River. In those days, he used to look out of his window and see the sailing ships with their big white sails sailing up the river, coming back from all around the world. One evening, he sat down to eat supper, and he said, "Ma, what's this, mush for supper again?" She said, "Well, Sam, we don't have anything but mush. We can't afford chicken and nice things like that, like other people have." Well, Sam pushed his chair back from the table and said, "Ma, I'm tired of mush for breakfast, mush for lunch, mush for supper. I just don't feel like eating." And he shoved his chair back, and he got up, and he walked out of the house, and he walked down to the river. He walked down to the beautiful river where the beautiful boats were. He listened to the sailors talking down there. And one of the sailors was singing a song. "'Tis advertised in Boston, New York, and Buffalo, 500 brave Americans a whaling for to go, singing, blow ye winds of the morning, blow ye winds hi-ho, clear away a running gear and blow, blow, blow." Sam went over to an old sailor who was sitting there whittling, and he says, "Is that true? Do they want people to work on the whaling boats and sail around the world catching whales?" Sailor says, "Sure thing, son." He says, "If you want a job, you go over to the captain there." Sam went over to the boat. He said, Captain, you got a job for me? I'll do anything you want. I'll shine the doorknobs. I'll scrub the decks. I'll do anything you want. I'll peel the potatoes. I want to go with you. I want to go around the world. I want to catch whales." The captain says, "Well, now, son, it's hard work. Doesn't pay very much." "Oh, I still want to go. I want to go." "Well, son, you got your mother's permission? It's all right with me. We need a cabin boy." Sam ran home as fast as he could. Ma, pack my toothbrush. Pack an extra pair of pajamas. I got to go. I'm going to sail around the world." And his mother got a little bag of all his precious things, an extra comic book and a couple extra things, and he ran back to the ship, and down the river they went. The captain said, "Haul up the main anchor, haul up the main anchor, we're sailing now." They went down the river past Storm King, past Bear Mountain, down the river, Tarrytown, Yonkers, Spite and Dival, out in the open sea. Sam looked around. He looked to the south, and there was nothing but water. He looked to the east, there was nothing but water. He looked all directions, there was nothing but water. They kept on sailing, and one day the captain says, "Sam, I think you better climb up there in the crow's nest and look around and see if you can see any whales." "Crow's nest," says Sam. "What's that?" "See that little thing way up in the mast? That's where you stand." And Sam went up, and he tied himself close in there. He held on to the mast so tight because when the wind blew, the mast would bend over to one side, then way over, and he looked straight down. There was nothing but water underneath him. Bend over the other direction. He looked straight down. There's nothing but water underneath him. The captain hollers up, "Sam, let loose of that mast. Says you got to look for whales." So Sam did his best. The ship was tipping back and forth. He looked all directions. All he could see was the blue sea. Till way off in the horizon, he thought he saw something look like a little fountain. It went pshh, pshh, pshh. "There she blows!" he cried. And the captain says, "Where does she blow?" "3 points up the starboard bow," says Sam. And he climbs down as quick as he could. "Well, clear away the boats, my boys, and after him we'll travel. But if you get too near his tail, he'll kick you to the devil, singing, blow ye winds in the morning, blow ye winds hi-ho, clear away a running gear and blow, blow, blow." And they got in the boat, and they rowed, 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 and they got nearer, and they got nearer, and they got nearer, and they got very quiet. And the man with the harpoon drew his hand back. They got so near they were almost touching the whale. Into the whale! The whale flashed. He goes down deep. He goes up in the air. He claps his tail on the side of the boat. He almost smashes them all up. But finally the whale gets all tired out. Well, we tore alongside, says the men. Next comes the stowing down, my boys. 'Twill take both night and day. And you'll all have 50 cents apiece on the 190th day. Singing, blow ye winds of the morning, blow ye winds hi-ho, clear away our running gear and blow, blow, blow. Well, Sam practiced until he could get good enough to throw the harpoon himself. And eventually the captain let him go out and be the one to throw the harpoon. He climbed up the mast many times, and as the mast would sway back and forth, he looked to the east. All he'd see would be the ocean. He looked to the south. All he'd see would be ocean. He looked to the west. All he'd see would be ocean. He looked to the north, up right near a couple icebergs, and there he saw, phew, phew, phew. "There she blows!" he hollered, and the captain says, "Where does she blow?" And Sam says, 5 points off the port bow, and down the mast he came. In the boats they went. They all were rowing. They'd row as fast as they could. They rowed faster. They'd get nearer, and this time Sam was up front. Sam pulled back with the harpoon. He'd sharpened it till it was as sharp as a needle. Into the whale. The whale thrashed around. It dived down deep to the bottom of the ocean. It went high in the air and slap on the water. Finally, though, it'd get tired out, and they'd tow it back to the ship and stow it all down in the barrels in the bottom of the ship. Well, they caught long whales and short whales. They caught big whales and small whales. They caught spotted whales and striped whales and ugly whales and pretty whales and black whales and white whales, till finally one day Sam and all the rest of the men says to the captain, "Captain, we're getting mighty tired of having nothing but whale stew and whale meat to eat, whale pancakes, whale salad, whale soup, whale everything." Says, "We want some nice fresh milk to drink. We want some nice green lettuce to eat." And the captain says, "Well, now, don't you think we ought to get just a couple more whales?" The man says, "No, it's time we turned around." The captain says, "Just one more." So all the men stood together. They say, "No, this is enough." So backwards around they turned. They sailed around. They sailed back across the ocean, back in the direction from which they came. Till finally one day, long time it took them, one day they saw the hills, the green hills of home. They sailed into Hudson River. They sailed up the river, past Spuyten Duyvil, past Yonkers, past Tarrytown, past Bear Mountain, past Storm King, till finally they could see the light way there in the top of Mount Beacon. And Sam says to his friends, he said, "There we are! We're home!" And they came up, tied up at shore, and every man stood and took his turn. The captain took out a big bag of silver dollars. He paid out a handful of silver dollars to this man. He paid out a handful of silver dollars to that man. When he finally came to Sam, the last one, he gave him $1 silver. Sam looked at it. He says, "Holy mackerel! Is this all I get for working all this time?" The captain says, "Well, now, Sam, you were just learning, you know." "Holy mackerel," says Sam, and he called, "Hey, Joe! Hey, Pete!" He says, "Look at all I got paid." The men came back and said, "Hey, now look here, Captain. If you want to get any of us to go out sailing with you, you pay him just the same as we did. He worked just as hard as anybody else." "Well," says the captain, "I suppose I got to if you all say so." And he took out his big sack of silver dollars again, and he paid out 1, 2, 3, 4, 100 silver dollars, the same as everybody else. Sam went down. He ran downtown. He went to the grocery store. He got himself the biggest box he could. He filled it full of turkeys and steaks and cakes and pies and potatoes and beans and peas and apples and all kinds of fruit. He went home, and his ma fixed him the biggest dinner you could ever see. She cooked him this, she baked him that, she boiled him that, she piled it all on the table. He stuffed it in himself. He ate till he's gotten so fat he could hardly touch the table. He ate until his stomach stuck out so far in front of him he couldn't reach the table with his hands. He rolled off the chair. He rolled on the floor. His ma rolled him along the floor. She rolled him into his bed. She pulled the covers up over him. She couldn't even tuck him in on the side, and she says, "Good night, Sam. Good night." And Sam went to sleep, and he dreamed he was still out in the ocean. He was climbing up the mast, tipping from side to side. And way off in the distance he'd see, "Phew, phew," and he'd holler, "There she blows!" And he'd dream about sitting down beneath the deck with all the other sailors. "Blow, ye winds of the morning, and blow, ye winds hi-ho, clear away your running gear, blow, blow, blow. Blow, ye winds of the morning, and blow, ye winds hi-ho, clear away your running gear, and blow, blow,